Hi, I'm Kara, and you stumbled across another knitting channel here on YouTube. This one's mine. I hope this finds you well. I'd like to welcome everyone. This is a space for knitting chat, yarny goodness, probably some occasional swearing and snark. But again, I'd like to welcome everyone to my channel, which is brand spanking new. This is the first front of camera talking to my phone, honestly, video that I've done. What you can expect from me going forward, the plan is that I will do monthly sort of traditional podcast episodes, updating on whips and finished objects, that sort of thing, and some occasional random other episodes that I throw in here and there when the spirit moves me, but not much more than that. I don't know how people do this weekly. Um, this has taken me months to get the courage up to do. So anyway, that's the plan going forward. I can be found at Nurse Kara Knits on Ravelry and Instagram, and also here on YouTube. I am a retired pediatric nurse practitioner. I live in the outside Philadelphia, the Philadelphia suburbs, but I split my time between the Philadelphia suburbs and we have a vacation home at the New Jersey shore. Um, Jersey Shore, yeah, seriously, it's a thing. We are located in for those not familiar with US geography, we're in the upper middle Atlantic portion of the East Coast of the United States. I'm going to give a few disclaimers here going forward with the podcast. I am a woman of a certain age. I am US based. My measurements are going to be in US. I'm sorry. I know that the metric system makes way more sense. I can't wrap my head around Celsius temperatures. Any temperatures I ever give are going to be in Fahrenheit. The knitting needles, honestly, the US sizing makes absolutely zero sense, but it's what I know. I will try when I can remember to give needle sizes also in the much more sensible metric sizes, but I don't know them off the top of my head, and I don't want to waste time looking things up. It'll be US dollars. I'm not going to convert things because it makes no sense. Just because I tell you what the conversion rate is today doesn't help you tomorrow. So all monies discussed will be in US dollars. Yardage will be yardage. Meters make more sense, I know. But again, I am an old dog who cannot seemingly learn new tricks. It's not because I don't want to. It's just because I'm inept. Anyway, sorry in advance. I have two kids and a husband. My kids are grown and they each have found their likely life partners. Fingers crossed. So when we go out, we're a party of six. I've been knitting since November of 2022, and it is my longest sustained craft obsession. I came to knitting, I had been a sewer for a long time, but not a happy one. I didn't do it because I loved it. I did it because I was fairly good at it and could make things fit. I liked the creativity of sewing. I liked figuring out the puzzle of sewing, but I don't like the actual act of sewing. My machine is pitiful, has always been pitiful, and it was a decent machine. I'm sure somebody could use it and it probably needs to be rehomed, but I feel like everybody needs to have a sewing machine in their lives, even if they just collect dust with it. I wanted to create a space for knitting centered community. I have note cards. I wanted to create a space for knitting centered community that's encouraging and supportive. I got so much out of the Knitterverse on YouTube in the past 3 years. And I felt like I wanted to add my voice to that mix. I did not find a knitting group that stuck. I didn't find, there are a lot of local yarn shops in the Philadelphia area. It's an embarrassment of riches. I can think of 4 that are under 30 minutes drive from my house. And if I stretch that out to an hour, there's probably a dozen. But that said, that's still drive time. And if I have to get in my car, drive to a knit at knit night, and then drive back, that's maybe an extra 45 minutes of an hour driving that I could spend knitting. And I only want to knit. It's bad, people. It's really, really bad. I decided this episode is going to be more of a 2025 wrapped sort of thing, like they do on Spotify, where I go over some awards for my knitting from last year. And I thought that might be a better way to introduce myself than either starting with just a regular podcast. And I'm not going to make people suffer through, including myself, a recap of all my 2025 knitting. I had 46 finished objects in 2025, and that just seemed like a lot. Again, I'd rather be knitting. What am I wearing? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is the Aryan sweater. This is a design by Kadri that I test knit. It's a great sweater. I really like it. It's done in Drops Air, and it's I finished this in October of 2024, and I've lost a lot of weight since April of 2025. I've lost almost 47 pounds. I diet, exercise, and medication, and it works. Anyway, it doesn't fit me anymore, but it's warm. It is freezing today. I think we're going to have a high of 21 degrees. It was 11 this morning when I woke up. That's just not even, 26 is not a high, people. So I pulled it out because it's my one alpaca sweater that I have right now. I've made others, but I've let them all go because nothing fits. So that is what I'm wearing. It's a really cool pattern. I've used this for other projects that I've done. So it's hard to tell because of the alpaca, but the way that the hems are done is you do a few rows of 1x1 ribbing, then a few rows of stockinette, and then you bind off, and it just gives a really cute, easy, polished looking edge. I've used that for other projects just because I like them. So let's talk about my 2025. Like I said, I finished 46 items. 7 of those were 2024 cast-ons that carried over. 24 of those were gift knits. Of those 24 gift knits, 4 of those were baby knits, which are so fast. There were 3 hats, 2 mittens. Of my whole 46, 11 items were summer items. I'm not sure why I made so many summer items last year, but I did. I don't really enjoy making summer items, but I guess we all need summer items. And then I did a breakdown of my yarn usage. I had 8 projects that were bulky. I had 8 DK projects. I had 7 sport weight projects. I had 6 worsted projects and 2 fingering weight projects that were not socks or mittens. If you had asked me before I tallied all these up, I would have sworn that all my projects were sport or DK. I was really surprised that I had 8 bulky weight items. I think most of them were probably hats that go so fast that you forget about them. I made 13 pairs of socks last year. I made 13 pairs of socks last year on purpose. I made 13 pairs of socks last year because was a terrible sock knitter. I couldn't figure out socks. I mean, I can make a garment, no problem. I understand garment construction. I could not figure out socks. I started my first pair of socks in May of 2023 when maybe April. It was for a May. I was hoping to give them to my husband for May 1st. I don't remember when I cast them on. Probably March, April of 2023, after I started knitting at the end of 2022. I took almost a year to finish those socks. Small needles, small yarn, hated the process, didn't understand the construction, couldn't find a heel that made sense to me that I could work on without dropping stitches and the whole 9 yards. At any rate, I did finally finish those socks. They were a gift from my husband. They were supposed to be an anniversary gift. He got them a year late. And they kind of have like 2 heels if you look at them in the right way, because there's this weird bump. They were short row heels. They were a fiasco. But I wanted to know how to make socks because I take my knitting with me places if I'm going to be waiting somewhere. I needed small projects, and there's only so many hats a person can have. Also, hats are not that small of a project. I needed something I could throw in a pocketbook. So I wanted to become a better sock knitter. I wanted to make one successful pair of socks. So I started another pair of socks in 2024 as I was trying to finish up my husband's socks. Big feet, pain in the ass. And I did make a second pair of socks that were fairly successful. They still had a weird heel. They weren't the heel method, I don't even remember, but they weren't what I wanted. 2025 comes along. I am determined to learn how to make a pair of socks. That's my recipe. That's my go-to that I don't have to think about. And the only reason I want to do this is because I love wool socks. Most of my commercially made socks are Smart Wool or REI wool socks. I love wool socks. And I really like handmade wool socks. They're fantastic. And I wanted the socks, so I have to learn how to make the socks. I know you're all dying to know, toe up only. I am 9-inch circulars, and I am 2 at a time tandem. So I'll work a little bit on I'll finish the toe of one, I'll do the toe of the other. I'll work 10 rounds, so that I finish them sort of at the same time. So I've really never had second sock syndrome. Cross your fingers that doesn't happen. And I'm team Flegel heel. I love a Flegel heel. I will sometimes do a forethought heel where you plan where you're going to put your afterthought heel and do just a regular short row heel to construct the heel afterward. But my favorite method is to do a Flegel heel. Everything just sort of stays in the round until you have to finally do that little heel structure, and then you're back in the round. I am team toe up because yarn chicken gives me anxiety. I play yarn chicken a good bit in other things. But the thought of having to get through a certain point where, like, if you don't finish, you're going to have a toeless sock, it's beyond me. I just can't. So I would much rather start at the toe, work my way up, stop when I'm ready to stop. So I'm sick of this sock. It's a shorty. I love this sock. Guess it's going to go up to the knee. I just find that to be much more relaxing in my life. I feel that way about sweaters too. I'm team top down for sweaters because, again, yarn chicken. I have a finished object here that we'll get to in a minute that is that I played some serious yarn chicken with, and if I had been working bottom up, I would not have the finished object, because the only way I was able to finish it was that I stopped it 5 inches before the pattern suggested for the hem. So this, like I said, this is going to be sort of a 2025 wrapped. That was a quick overview. I have some awards and superlatives, as it were, that I have given some of my projects from the year. And to be honest, I lifted this straight out of my knitting planner. This is the Stitching Cabin Knitter's Almanac. And there are lists of, superlatives and awards and that sort of thing. And I just lifted them right off of that. So without further ado, let's get on to my 2025 knitting awards. My most frequent designer, this is listed as favorite designer, but honestly, I don't really have a favorite designer. I do have a batch of favorite designers, but I couldn't pick one. But I can tell you that I knit 4 petite knit patterns last year. I knit 2 patterns from Yamagara, and I knit 2 patterns from Rebecca Clow. And again, memory is a weird thing, because if you had asked me, I would have said I made more Isabel Kramers. And I think it's because I made a lot of Isabel Kramers in 2024 and I made 1 Isabel Kramer in 2025. But the numbers don't lie, people. They just don't. My favorite new designer, I do have a favorite new designer. My favorite new designer is Megan Monroe. I knit her first pattern that she released. It came up on my Ravelry feed in the new designer, hot new designer feed, whatever that section of Ravelry is. And it was the farmer's market dress. And I saw it, and my son's girlfriend that she needed it. She needed it. She didn't ask for it. She didn't particularly, want it and say anything to me. I needed to make it. I needed to make it for her. And she wears it, and it is spectacular on her. Megan Monroe now has 3 designs out. One is a colorwork boucle sweater called the Mile Marker sweater, and then she has another pullover sweater out whose name I can't remember. But check out Megan Monroe. She seems to be going like gangbusters. My most used yarn, again, if you'd asked me, I would have said Kelburn Wool and Scout. Absolutely, Kelburn Wool and Scout. I use Scout all the time, and I probably do use Scout a lot. It might even be maybe the most, but it turns out my most used yarn was Barocco Vintage. Again, all the different weights, bulky, worsted, and DK. Excuse me. This is probably because of all the gift knitting. My son's girlfriend, my daughter's girlfriend, they get easy care items from me. It's heartbreaking to work on a project and that somebody wants, that somebody who's very knitworthy wants and deserves, and you work a long time on the project and they love the project, and you get that phone call that they've washed it and they've dried it and it's done. So having had that crushing thing happen on more than one occasion, my son's girlfriend, my daughter's girlfriend, they get easy care items. I think Barocco Vintage is a terrific yarn. It's a blend of acrylic and superwash wool. I do have a couple of tricks that I use before I like to finish it off. I steam it first with a handheld steamer, and that does some really great relaxing to the acrylic. And then I wet block it. So I make that acrylic nice and soft. Then I wet block the whole thing. I lay it out on blocking mats to dry, get it about 90% dry, and then I turn it inside out. It goes in the dryer for a little while. I pull it out of the dryer while it's still not completely dry, lay it back out on the blocking mats, right side out, and let it finish off. And that seems to really work. It feels soft. It feels woolly. It doesn't feel plasticky and acrylic, but those are my tips. While you're working with it, it can feel a little plasticky, acrylic-y, but I think that juice is worth the squeeze. I think it's great yarn. Another yarn that I used a lot, this goes back to the summer projects that I did, Wandering Flat Cotton Lino. I love that yarn. That is my favorite summer weight, summer type yarn. It is not entirely plant-based. It's a blend of cotton and linen and silk and baby alpaca. And I believe that it's probably the baby alpaca that makes it feel so nice when you're working with it. And it wears pretty well. I have one of my most worn items is made in that, and it has held up very well. What kept me company? What did I do while I was knitting? Well, people, I watched a lot of YouTube channels. I watched as kind of, they're on in the background. You know, there's like, you pay attention, you don't pay attention. They're just sort of there, which is great. That's what I like. I don't need something that grabs all my attention because I'm trying to focus on my knitting. I've also listened to a lot of audiobooks, and I read. I can read while I knit. I read on my Kindle or on my iPad on the Kindle app, and I just flick while I'm knitting. So that's what I did. I have subscribed to 110 knitting channels on YouTube. I've subscribed to some other channels as well, but 110 knitting channels. I do have some favorites. My favorites list is long, so I'm not going to give them to you. I will tell you that I have two that if they post a new video, I'm almost giddy with excitement. I think some of that is because they don't post that often anymore. I think that, they used to post a lot more than they do now, so now it's gotten a little bit more infrequent. But I absolutely love Becky from Back to Blighty. She does Vlogmas. She's done Vlogtober. She also does knitting podcasts that used to be very regular, but now they're a little more sporadic. But I just love watching and listening to Becky. Becky has had a series of house rabbits. And I just find her whole entire life to be just sort of very romantic. Like I just want to hang out with Becky and see her kitchen in real life. And then the other one is Cat Weaver. Cat Weaver could read me the phone book and I would listen and be incredibly happy. Cat is another UK based podcaster, and she's just incredibly gentle and calming and wonderful. So if you haven't caught Cat Weaver's podcast or Back to Blighty, I can highly recommend those. And then again, my list of favorites is probably 25 podcasts deep. So those are the only two I'm mentioning because I can't cut anybody else. I just can't. That's it. These are the individual awards, which is really kind of silly, but I'm having fun with this. I hope you are. My longest whip standing. This one is a saga. This is a project that was started in October of 2024, and it got a lot of love in 2024. It also got a lot of hate in 2024, and it got love in 2025, and it got some hate in 2025. And I've pretty much worked my way through all the aggravating and irritating things about this project, and it's just sort of coasting now, but it's still slow going. So here it is, without further ado. This is my Boreas sweater. Can't get it. It's still attached to the yarn ball, and it's wrapped around 9 other things. So this is the Boreas sweater. This is patterned by Eggyo Knit, Caroline Skarsgård Benson. This is an all-over cable and texture. This is not cable. Pattern that I'm working up in Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool. And the love of this pattern is that it's gorgeous. I think it's gorgeous. And I think it's going to be throw on sweatshirty, cold walk on a winter's day. A day like today, I wouldn't even go outside in this. I'd wear it inside because it's effing cold. Anyway, I do love this. I love working with Fisherman's Wool, the Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool. It comes in these gigantic skeins. They are 465 yards. It's an 8-ounce skein, and the price is fantastic. They are natural. So this is the natural brown. There's also sort of a grayish oatmeal color and a more beigey oatmeal-y color. But they're undyed, natural wool, non-superwash, and I think they're great. This is worked up on US 7. It's Aran weight. I think Lion Brand wants to say that that's a worsted weight, but it works up more like an Aran weight to me. The issues with this is a paid-for pattern, and there were issues with this pattern. There was errata that were corrected right off the bat, but I had already gotten past where the correction was made, and I just decided to go with it, and I didn't frog back to fix it. I just decided to live with it. It's you have to know where it is, but it's in the upper back, and I decided I didn't care. But the pattern is confusing at times, and Caroline has recently retranslated it and posted a new version of the pattern. And I believe that has probably fixed 90% of the issues that I was having with this pattern. So it was a struggle, but I love it and I will get it finished. Just don't know when. All over cables hurt my hands. That's the bottom line. I have to pace myself on this one. I can do about 4 rows. I guess we're rounds now. And then I have to stop. My fastest finish, so that was the longest whip standing, my fastest finish. I have 2, and I did 2 because I feel like 1 is cheating. My fastest finish is the Apex hat. I'll try to remember to put pictures of things over here that I'm talking about that I don't have to hold up. This is a gift knit for my stepdad, and it's done up in Malabrigo Rasta, and it's on US 15s or 13s. And I think I finished it in an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. It's quick. It's a great hat pattern. It's a rib pattern, turned up brim. It is a paper pattern, and I did it in the candy cane color, which if you're still looking at this thing that I'm hopefully have put up here on the screen, I don't see how that color is called candy cane, but that's the candy cane color. And then because that was a hat and I felt like that was cheating to call that my fastest whip, even though it was, I'm going to show you my other fastest project, my fastest finish. So this is the Goldwing. It's a pattern by Jen Steingass, Knit Love Wool. And I worked this up on US 7. It's a worsted weight pattern. This is done in Wool of the Andes, worsted in the color Baltic Heather, according to my notes. I think that's probably right. And a Manos del Uruguay Ideal in the color Nectar. I'm going to show you the back. I'm not going to show you the front until I can just sort of hold it and talk to you about it. So I finished this the day after the Super Bowl last year. Again, I'm from outside Philadelphia. Go Birds. This is, in fact, my Go Birds Goldwing. And the reason that I finished this so quickly has to do with the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles are a U.S. football team. I am a U.S. football fan. I will watch football of any stripe, any kind, anytime. Love it. But I am a Birds fan. So the Philadelphia Eagles last year, not this year, last year, made it to the Super Bowl. Spoiler alert, they won. But the NFC Championship game is the game that leads up to the Super Bowl. And at that time, that was the end of January, third week of January last year, I had 4 whips that were almost finished. And I knew I wanted to sit, watch that game, and knit. I also knew that if the Birds lost that game and did not go to the Super Bowl, I would look at whatever whip I had been working on with disdain for the rest of its natural born life. So what's a girl to do? She starts a new project. So I cast this on at kickoff of the NFC Championship game in 2025. And they won. Now what's a fan to do? Well, you got to keep working on it. I mean, the mojo is clearly coming from the sweater and all of my knits and purls that are going into the sweater. So I have to keep working on the sweater. I also wanted to see if I could finish it by the Super Bowl. I did not, but I finished it the morning after. And so this is my Go Birds Goldwing. Again, this is just the back. And I'm going to talk to you about why you're not seeing the front yet. So again, I lost a ton of weight this year. And this, I had made, this is the size G, maybe? Jen Steingass letters her sizes. So it was the size that was maybe around a 52-inch bust. So it was on the higher end of the amount of ease that she recommended. And I made whatever size that was. So when I finished it originally, it was perfectly oversized. I'll put my picture here. I loved it. I wore it a lot. I wore it all spring. I wore it at the shore in April and May when chilly morning walks with the mist coming off the Atlantic Ocean. And I love this sweater. However, lost a ton of weight. Still wanted to wear the sweater. It was looking like I was wearing something I found at the Lost and Found, quite frankly. So I steeped it. I'm turning it into a jacket. I'm turning it into a bomber jacket. It has been steeped. I have ripped back the original collar and added a double knit collar to it. So it's the one color on one side and the blue on the other side. And I'm going to put a zipper in. And I'm going to put a zipper in, I'm going to pay someone to put the zipper in for me. Again, back to my sewing machine. I haven't fixed it. I'm not going to fix it for a zipper. I'm going to pay my tailor. So I have the zipper. The zipper is going to get put in hopefully sometime next week. I just have to make it over to my dry cleaners. I want to talk to you quickly about steeking. This is my first ever steek project. I was terrified. And I went to the local yarn store at the shore in Ocean City, New Jersey. Shout out to the Knitting Niche. And there was a woman there who agreed to help me. So she held my hand and talked me through the procedure, and we did it. And I want to encourage you, if you have ever thought of steeking something but you're afraid to, this right now, there's nothing holding this down. There's nothing holding this together. There is a small thread of reinforcement that we sewed in, but like, it's fine. It's fine. You're not going to pull it apart. It's much sturdier than you think it's going to be. So if you have an old project that you're, not wearing anymore, you're thinking of donating to someone, do a little practice steek. Make yourself a swatch. Do a little practice steek. Now, this one may be more successful because neither of these yarns are superwash wool. They're woolly wools. And because I wore it so much out in the mist in the spring, it was already kind of felting a little bit. So I think she's going to be fantastic, and I hope to show her to you as an updated whip. FO. Anyway, that's my Go Birds Goldwing. Next category, my most worn items of 2025. I have two. Couldn't decide. I have a fall winter version and I have a summer version. So my fall and winter version, this is I call it my autumn Ingrid. I love the Ingrid sweater. I think the Ingrid sweater is a great pattern. It can be frustrating sometimes, these when you're doing the arms, especially these faux cable crosses sometimes don't line up when you're doing the decreases at the same time. There are a couple ways around that. First, you can just not decrease in that area and do some rapid decreases after that. And then they'll line up and be fine. You can also just sort of let it go. If they don't line up, don't worry about it. They're on the bottom of your arm. Who cares? So this is, I wear this a lot. This is Kelburn Woolen Scout in Chestnut Heather. I love Kelburn Woolen Scout. I think their colors are terrific. I didn't get that. Could you try again? Thank you, Siri. I love Kelburn Woolen Scout. Welcome. Seriously? This is a pattern that's supposed to be worsted weight yarn on US 6 needles. I did this with a DK weight yarn on US 7 needles. This is my second of 4 Ingrids. My first Ingrid was a gift from my daughter's girlfriend, and it was done according to the pattern. It's stiff as a board. It almost feels like you could just sort of set it down and it would stand up by itself. The fabric is incredibly dense. So when I made mine, I wanted it to be more flowy, more loosey-goosey, more snuggly. And so I went up a needle size and down a yarn size, and it worked out great. I love this. I wear it a ton. It's great. It's too big for me now, but I still wear it because now it's just cozy and wonderful. This is the taller collar. There's a option for a folded collar. And this is the women's version. So Petite Knit has the women's Ingrid and an Ingrid Man, and I have made the Ingrid Man. So the women's version has these eyelets in between the transitions of the different stitch patterns. The men's version does not have eyelets. It has a different transition. The men's version, interestingly enough, is made out of DK weight yarn on a US 7. That may have been where I got the idea to do it. So that's my Ingrid. That's a paid for pattern also, by the way. My most worn summer garment. This is a tragedy of my own making. This is my Luminous by Yamagara. This is another paid for pattern. And I wore this at least once a week, all summer long. I had started it in the summer of 2024. I knit a lot of it sitting on the beach, but I didn't finish it until we were going on a trip, I want to say February of 2025, and I got it finished up so that I could wear it for the trip. I wore the heck out of this thing. This is Wandering Flock Cotton Lino in the color Burnt Sienna, and Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool in the color Holy Toledo. Good job, Kara. Way to remember. And it's done up, those are sport weight yarns, and let's see, where are my notes? It's done up on a size 4 needle, and I made the size 5. whatever size it was, however the sizes work out for this, I was on, again, I was on the lower end for this one. I was on the lower end of the ease, recommended ease. Um, and I can't wear it anymore. That's the tragedy. It looks like I stole it from my big sister. I don't have one, but it looks like, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. It got ridiculous toward the end of the summer, and I washed it, and when it was about 90% dry, I turned it inside out and threw it in the dryer on fairly high heat, and that drew it in a good bit, and I was able to wear it in the fall. Um, I am going to try to intentionally shrink it to see if I can get some more wear out of it. I'll put pictures of how it looks on me now. I love this thing. The construction's really cool. So you start like you're making a shawl almost. So you start at the corner and you work your way out, and then you join it and work in the round. It's like magic. I can't explain it. It's a really cool construction. I enjoyed it a lot. It's a little the stitches are a little uneven because I was practicing continental knitting. Maybe combination. I was either practicing continental knitting or combination knitting for this project. And so the stitches are a little uneven. Don't care. Love it. I am going to make another one because I wore this so much that I'm going to really miss it in my wardrobe. I have more of the cotton lino from the Wandering Flock in this navy, and I have two leftover balls. I might need to get one more skein of this. This is Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool in Fine Line, and I think I'm going to do a little color management so that the navy part of this is away from the navy part from the solid navy. But I'm going to make another one of those because I do wear it a ton, and I will miss it greatly if I can't shrink it down to something that works for me. Okay, moving on. My most unexpected whip, the whip that just snuck itself onto my needles, had no plan but had to do it. This is going to be a little weird sounding. It's the Ooey Gooey from Andrea Mowry, another paid for pattern. I was watching her podcast and she showed her Rhinebeck sweater for 2025, and it's the Ooey Gooey, and I want to say that afternoon ordered the yarn and started as soon as the yarn came in. So if you haven't seen it, this is it. It's a round yoke, top down round yoke, seamless construction. And the color work is stranded color work. So what I liked about it is that it was a traditional style of sweater with a very untraditional pattern. So that's why I wanted it. I wasn't going to Rhinebeck. I probably won't go to Rhinebeck. Not really a festival girl. And I wasn't going to have my picture taken on the hill. I did participate in the knit along because I'm making it. Why not? But I just wanted the sweater. I think it's great. The fit is terrific. Andrea did a cool thing. So for my Goldwing, for the Jen Stein guest sweater, I had used a technique where you basically sort of move where you're placing the arms when you stop a round yoke and you divide it into a front and a back and two arms. You sort of move the position of where those arms are to give yourself more fabric in the front. And Andrea Mowry wrote that into this pattern. She wrote that technique into this pattern in a way that's very clear, very easy to understand, and she calls it a front dominant fit. So I want to say I knit the size 4 or 5 with a front dominant fit, and it worked great. This is Barocco Lannis Light in Grapefruit, the main color, and this is the Spin Cycle Fine Line that I have the leftovers from. I did a good bit of yarn management, color management with the Spin Cycle for this, mostly because I really love the blue, and I really did not like when it started to transition to the green. I didn't like the way the green worked with the grapefruit. I don't know why. They're not bad. I just didn't like them. So because of that, I ran out of yarn and of the blue part of the yarn and was unable to do the full motif on the sleeves. But I just did the dots and the 2 little welts, and I made sure that there was enough to do a little color tip at the hem and at the wrist hem. And if I do it again, I don't know that I'll make another one. I might do it without color work. I might just use it as a round yoke plain sweater because the fit is really terrific. I'm not going to do these welts on the sleeve. I find that if I happen to be wearing it and I have to do a good bit of writing for whatever reason, it bothers my wrist that those two little welts are there. So just bear that in mind if you want to make one. Great pattern, great sweater. I love it. You can tell if you look very closely or if you have a good eye that the blue bled all over this thing. Yeah. Ticked me right off. I soak my sweaters and I always soak them with color catchers. And I knew enough to put several color catchers in. Those things came out navy. And the Barocco did absorb some of this, some of the blue. I have since intentionally, when I wash this, I put it in with fairly warm water, more color catchers, and I'm sort of trying, the goal is to even out so that it's not so blotchy where the blue is. I'm trying to get it to like soak some down into here, will ya, this blue. So the original color of this grapefruit is not quite this. This is a new made by me color. Thank you very much. Anyway, that was aggravating, but it happened. Next up, a surprise favorite. This is what project delighted you way more than you thought it was going to delight you. And this was probably the easiest category for me to pick a winner. I have these. These are Keep the Leaf mitts. This is a pattern by Ronnie Dam Lalata, and I apologize for that pronunciation if it's incorrect. This is the one that I made to pattern. And this is the one that I made not to pattern. I messed up, but I'm happier with this one. So I'm going to tell you what I did. So to pattern, you do 6 rounds on the thumb, and I messed up and did 10, but I like that one better. This one, it rubs right at my knuckle, and this one covers my knuckle in a better way. So I didn't change it. I'm not going to fix it, but just if you decide that you want to make these, I would say do the thumb for longer. This is a free pattern, and it's done up in Earth Harvest fingering in ecru, and the self-striping yarn is an Earth Unique sock set. Earth Unique sock sets are 2 50-gram, unless you buy the mini sock set, which is more for children's foot sizes, so it's smaller, they're not 50-gram balls, that are wound so that you have twins when you use them instead of sisters. I love these. These are done up on a US 2.5, and they're warm, and it was so much fun to make, and I now am obsessed with making mittens and mitts. This might be the year of the mitts. 13 pairs of socks last year. We'll see how many mittens I do this year. Okay, I don't have either of these. There are 2 winners for this next category, and I don't have either of these, so if I figure out how to do the pictures, there'll be pictures. My proudest finish. The first one is the collar of my Whiskey Sour. So Whiskey Sour is a pattern by Maxim Sear. It's done Wandering Flock, cotton lino. It is a short sleeve cardigan, menswear inspired if you're a woman and you want to wear it. So polo shirt, sort of a like a bowling shirt looking thing, and it's a all over textured pattern, raglan style, top down. Great knit, I loved it. But the collar you cast on with Judy's Magic Cast On, and you work it around and around and around and around until you've made a flat double knit collar. And I had trouble wrapping my head around that for whatever reason. I just was, okay, let me follow this instruction. Okay, let me follow this instruction. Okay, let me follow this instruction until I finished it. And then honestly, I was almost to the point where it was time to stop working on the collar before I realized what I had done. I had made a freaking collar, and it was great. So that was my favorite. That's a pattern that is a sport weight pattern, and it's US 5 needles. It is a paid for pattern, and I got gauge, but it didn't fit the person that it was a gift for. It was a gift for my husband, who is, Is he knit worthy? Yeah, but he's not appreciative. So I don't know that he's getting any more. Huh, there. But my daughter loved it, and so I ended up giving it to her. And then my other proudest finish, and this one is the creme de la creme, is my farmer's market dress that I gave to Meredith. I made it for Meredith. I knew Meredith would love it. She does. She wears it a good bit. It's a it's either feather and fan or a shell pattern. It's a lacework pattern dress, worked top down in the round, and it's a pattern by Megan Monroe, my favorite new designer. It has the look of crochet without being crochet, and it's fantastic. It looks great on her. There are not that many projects on Ravelry. People need to find this designer and work up this dress. This dress is great. It was much faster than I thought it was gonna be. I finished it much more quickly than I thought I would. I mean, it's a lot of knitting, it's a lot of yarn. Maybe it's because it was lace and that kept me going. Maybe it was because it was colorwork stripes. And that kept me going, but I finished it a lot faster than I thought I would. It's done up on US 6s, and I used Noro Akari, which Noro yarns, if you're not familiar, are sort of, I'm going to say loosely spun. So they have a lot of thick and thin areas. There are parts of that yarn that are almost like sport weight thickness, and there are parts of that yarn that are almost chunky weight thickness. Overall, I believe they say that it's a worsted weight. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I used. Again, I wanted this to look as crochet-y as possible, so the thick and thin sort of helped with that. And it's gorgeous. I love it. I'm so proud of it, and I hope she gets lots and lots and lots of wear out of it. Next, the most relaxing piece, the whip that brought you the most soothing joy. So here it is. It's my ranunculus. I have two of them, but this is my one I did a short sleeve one in a cotton and silk yarn, and I did this one. This is my red ranunculus. It is the project that soothed me the most, not because it's a ranunculus. I do like the ranunculus, but not because because of the yarn. People, this yarn, I wish you had Feel-O-Vision. This is, oh my gosh, there's more hairs coming out of me. This is Joy fingering in Owens Red from Hope Made Yarn Co. So Hope is an independent dyer, local to me when I'm at the Jersey Shore. She lives down near the coast. And all of her bases are terrific. She has some sensitivities, and so she really tests her bases to see how they wear and how they feel. And this Joy is spectacular. Joy is 80%, I wrote it down so I wouldn't get it wrong, 80% extra fine merino, 10% yak, and 10% silk. And it is spectacular. I would make everything in this if I could. But that is my most soothing project, and it is absolutely because of the yarn. I worked this up on a US 8, which is off gauge, and I think I ended up having to make the size 11 to get it the size that I wanted, and I love it. I absolutely love this sweater. I also used Nicole Knits. She's Nicole Knits on Ravel. She's also Nicole Knits here on YouTube. She made some modifications for hers that she wrote down on her Ravelry page, and I used those. I have never done the actual neckline cast on for the ranunculus. I've always just cast on and made it. So I did that again, and I don't do the short rows in the front. I do the short rows in the back. I knit it off gauge almost every time. I just wanted to have a fabric that I like. And the hem, this is the Nicole Knits tip, was to use the slip stitch pattern from up above and then knit a couple stitches and then just do a 2-stitch I-cord bind off for the hem. And I love it. The ranunculus is a paid for pattern. It is by Midori Hirose, and I last time I looked, there were almost 30,000 projects on Ravelry. I mean, I think everybody makes a ranunculus at one point or another. It sort of has a cult following. I really do like the way that it wears. It always looks pulled together and elegant, sort of no matter what. I agree with people who have said that the pattern photo is atrocious, that it's just this like waif like fairy type person wearing an enormous oversized lacework sweater, and it's not great. So if that is turning you off, dig down deep in the project photos of people who have made ranunculi. It's a great pattern, honestly. It's easy and kind of fun to work. But I'm not a member of the cult. Having said that, the most meaningful project of the year. So my most meaningful project of 2025. I don't have, it was a gift. Again, lots of gift knitting. This is, again, if I can figure out how to do the picture, my mom's owls. So I wanted to make an owls sweater by Kate Davies for my mom since I realized I could make garments knitting. My mom's birthday is in October. My mom was a kindergarten and first grade teacher, and my mom loves fall. And that owl's sweater just seemed to be calling her name. So this year for her birthday, I made an owl's. I made it out of Barocco Vintage Chunky in the color Oats, and it's worked up on US 10.5. I might have used an 11 needles. It's worked up on large needles. It's a quick knit. It is a bottom-up construction, and you work the body, you work the sleeves, you join everything together at the yoke and finish things off. I found that to be the fiddliest part of the whole project. I really loved the project. I love the end result. I don't like working bottom up. I don't like that when you have the 3 different parts and you're trying to get them all together. So I much prefer a top-down construction, but with this, with the cables and everything, you have to follow it according to pattern. So that's my mom's owls. It was absolutely my most meaningful project of the year. The owls had been in my queue. I'm gonna say I queued that in 2022 when I first started knitting, or maybe 2023 when it might have been 2023 when I first sort of found Ravelry. But it was one of the first things that I ever put in my favorites and ever queued, and I'm really proud that I finally finished it last year. My most challenging piece, we are getting toward the end. My most challenging piece was my self-drafted sweater. This was challenging on multiple levels. So this is mine. I made this and I designed this, and I did it with a lot of help. So I took a class from Tanya Lyons of Nerding Knitting. She does a swatch to sweater class. This is the swatch to sweater drop shoulder course. And you make a swatch, you get your gauge from that swatch, you measure yourself, you get your measurements, and you make yourself a sweater for you based on that. And I took that class because I want to get into design and I wanted to see how that process worked. So this is my version. It was inspired by a 1990s, very early 1990s, Adrienne Vittadini pattern from Vogue Knitting that has these little cables on stockinette. They're not held in relief by purl stitches surrounding them. And that was a cardigan, and it was drop shoulder, but it was drop shoulder cardigan. And I wanted to do a pullover version. So I did, and I had plans to write it up and have it be my first project. Some of the reasons that it was challenging, most of the reasons that it was challenging were because I'd never done that process before, and wrapping my head around the math and figuring out the fit and then executing it was just sort of challenging in and of itself. But the big challenge came because I had actually written up this pattern and was making a second sample and was in touch with a tech editor to write it up and release it off to the world after some test knitting. And I was watching a podcast. I was watching Those Twins Who Knit, and I want to say it was Jessica, but it might not have been, but they were doing their recap of everything we knit in 2025. And she held up my sweater. Here, I made this. And it was this. It was this. Apparently, my design was made in 2023 by Ozetta. So I'm not releasing this. That would be silly. I mean, yes, I came up with it. Yes, it's my numbers, it's my math, but it was a DK weight pattern, same gauge. It looks like I've just basically modified the collar and the cuff. So I'm not This is not going to be released. This is a one-off. It is one and done. This was done in Sanduskarn Smart, which is their superwash yarn. I don't love it. I didn't like working with it. I don't like the way it feels now. It doesn't really soften up. It still feels very plasticky. It feels way more acrylic-y than the acrylic and wool Barocco vintage feels. But this is my first sweater I ever designed and made all by myself with a lot of help from Tanya. by myself. Okay. My knit fiasco. The one I had to rip back the most. It's a Jen Steingast pattern. It's Golden Fern. And I did that on US 3s in Kelburn Woolens Perennial in the color Caribbean. And the plan is to also, for the color work, to use Manistil Uruguay Allegria in the colorway Quilt. It's going to be a great sweater. What happened was, it's a circular yoke. So you're working the increases and you're not, this one, the color work is down at the bottom. It's not up at the yoke. So the yoke is in the plain contrast, the plain main color. And I got lost. I got lost a lot. I got lost in how many increases am I doing? How many rows between the, what row am I on? I had a row counter. Also, I can count rows. I got completely lost multiple times. I ripped back that yoke. I don't know how many times I ripped back the yoke. Summer hits, I get frustrated with it. I decided I'm putting it away. It's going into timeout. I pull it out. I finish working the yoke. I only had like 11, 12 rounds to go to finish the yoke. Finish the yoke, put it on. It's enormous. Enormous. Again, I'm working the size G because that's what I was in the spring. I'm not a G anymore. I ripped the whole thing back. I have started it over. I have about yay much of the yoke done. I'll have that sweater some point. It's just not happening anytime soon. I still have some feelings about that one. I am working it up in Kelburn Woolens Perennial, which is an alpaca. Probably alpaca and wool. Maybe some nylon. I don't know. Anyway, Kelburn Woolens Perennial. It's a fingering weight yarn. I love that yarn. It's so soft and wonderful. And on a US 3. All that said about that Golden Fern and how it was my whip fiasco, it is not the winner of our next award. The next award is the whip that tested my patience. Here she is. It's the Sea Sweater by Yuko Shimizu. It is a paid-for pattern. This is mine. She just came off the needles about 10 days ago, maybe. It's done on US 9, 5.5 millimeters. Look at me knowing that one. And I did mine in El Rey Cashmerino Aran, which is a nice yarn. It's a cashmere and acrylic and wool blend, Aran weight. And my issue with this and why I got so frustrated with it, and it just tested my patience, was because it wasn't what I wanted it to be. It had nerve. I started working on this on my birthday in August, and this was my birthday cast on, and like I said, I just finished it. I wanted this to be some nice relief from all the fingering weight patterns I had been doing and sport weight patterns that I had been doing and all the summer yarns that I had been using. I wanted big needles, big yarn, nice, easy, top down, let's go. And I do love the look of this pattern. That is not what this is. This is, you got to pay attention to this thing. Some of that is the way the pattern is written. My guess is that a good bit gets changed in the translation and it becomes harder to follow than it likely is in the original. But what you do is you cast on and you work the rib neck. Then you start doing these short row increases. The entire shoulders yoke thing is made with short rows. And you're doing that in pattern. So that's this, this pattern. And every so often you do short rows and you're increasing with short rows and working the pattern. And it required way more focus than I wanted it to require, needed it to require. And I got lost in that yoke a lot. This is becoming a theme. I got lost in the yoke a lot. I ripped it back a couple of times. And then I had gotten to, it ends up, it's like flat. It looks like a pita, honestly, when you're working it. It has no, there's no roundness to the shoulders. It's just flat. So when I had gotten to the part where I was almost ready to not do the short rows and increases anymore, I was almost finished with that part of it. My count was off. I had enough stitches on the needle to do the next size up, but they weren't in the right. I had more on the back than the front by like a lot. I don't know what I did. What did I do? I rolled with it. I just fudged the increases. I made it work. I had, but as a result, so there's this little nubbin here. This is where there was a join in the yarn ball that I missed as I was going through. I didn't find it to cut it out and make it better. But this was originally on the back of the sweater, and I decided, what the heck? I'll just go along. Well, it ended up being on the front, because when I had to fudge all the other stuff, I had to make the front the back. And so now, right in the very front of my sweater is that weird nubbin. Anyway, I also ran out of yarn. I wasn't supposed to run out of yarn. Somewhere in my life is the 7th yarn ball of this yarn. It's either left at my mom's from when I visited her. It's at the beach house where I left it. Maybe it's in a drawer or a cabinet. Cannot find it. And I had gotten to the point where this thing had been on the needles for so long, and I was sick of it being just sort of this lingering whip, that I decided to just go ahead and finish it off. So I mean, if you knew what I had to do, I had to rip out my swatch. I had to weave in ends and cut off the yarn and just to get the bind off finished. So it's supposed to be longer than this. It has a split hem that is supposed to be probably 4 or 5 inches longer, and it's supposed to have buttons and buttonholes. When I realized that I was done and I wasn't going to look for that yarn ball anymore and I was just going to cut it off and be done, I decided to not do the buttonhole, but I worked as long as I possibly could with the split hem, and I bound off. So I do like wearing her. I have worn her a couple of times, and now, like I said, I just finished it a couple days ago. I have a picture of me in it, and I'll talk more about it on my first podcast episode, because this is going to be an FO. So that's the whip that tested my patience the most. Oh, those short rows. What a pain in the arse. Anyway, we have reached the end. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate your time. And if you found anything that I forgot to link down below and you have questions, please ask me in the comments. I promise I will try to get back in touch with you and clarify anything. These are going to be minimally edited going forward, because if I have spare time, I want to be knitting. I don't want to be editing videos. There are likely to be lots of light changes and things like that, because I'm just not going to be bothered with it. If you want more video quality and you can't watch me because of that, I hate to see you go, but I understand. I'm also not changed. Because I am Gen X. Hear me roar. I am what I am. You get what you get. Thanks so much for watching, and until I see you again next time, take care.